day, and welcome to the Oriental Aromatics Limited Q1 FY22 earnings conference call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Anuj Sonpal from Valorem Advisors. Thank you, and over to you, Mr. Sonpal.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to you all. My name is Anuj Sonpal, CEO of Valorem Advisors. We represent the investor relations of Oriental Aromatics Limited. On behalf of the company, I would like to thank you all for participating in the company's earnings conference call for the first quarter of financial year 2022. Before we begin, I would like to mention a short cautionary statement. Some of the statements made in today's earnings conference call may be forward-looking in nature. Such forward-looking statements are subject to risks and uncertainties which would cause actual results to differ from those anticipated. Such statements are based on management's beliefs as well as assumptions made by and information currently available to management. Audiences are cautioned not to place any undue reliance on these forward-looking statements in making any investment decisions. The purpose of today's earnings conference call is purely to educate and bring awareness about the company's fundamental business and financial quarter under review. I would now like to introduce you to the management participating with us in today's earnings conference call and give it over to them for opening remarks. We have with us Mr. Dharmil Budani, Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. Shyamal Budani, Executive Director, Mr. Parag Satoskar, Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Girish Khandelwal, Chief Financial Officer, and Ms. Kiranpreet Gill, Company Secretary. Now, without any further delay, I request Mr. Shyamal Budani to give his opening remarks. Thank you, and over to you, Shyamal.
Thank you, Anuj. Good afternoon, everyone. It is our pleasure to welcome you to the Quarter 1's earnings conference call of Oriental Aromatics Limited. I hope everyone is safe and healthy during these difficult times. With regards to our performance during the quarter, the company witnessed a steady demand across all product categories. Aroma chemicals, fragrances, flavors, and camphor, despite a challenging domestic macro environment, mainly owing to the lockdown and restrictions. Sales volume for the quarter were flattish on a quarter-to-quarter basis. Sales realization across all major products categories except camphor improved during the quarter on quarter-to-quarter basis. With regards to the planned capex, capital investment program in Baroda, Bareilly and Mahad are all on track. However, they are facing some minor delays due to the current COVID situation. I now request Mr. Girish Khandelwal, our CFO, to give the financial and operational highlights.
Thank you, Shyamal. Good afternoon, everyone. Here on a consolidated basis in quarter 1 FY22, the operating revenue for the quarter was rupees 229.7 crore, which was an increase of approximately 103% on a year-on-year basis and 4% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Operating EBITDA reported was 34.5 crore, which was an increase of about 88% on a year-on-year basis and 4% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Operating EBITDA margins stood at 15.02%, which was a decrease of 122 basis points on a year-on-year basis and decrease of 2 basis points on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Net profit after tax reported was rupees 22.7 crore, which was an increase of about 129% on a year-on-year basis and increase of 1.3% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. While profit after tax margins were 9.88%, which was an increase of 114 basis points on a year-on-year basis and decrease of 24 basis points on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Thank you. Over to you, Anuj.
Yeah, we can open the floor to question and answer session now.
Thank you very much. So we'll now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to withdraw yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Rahul Jain from Credence Wealth. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hello.
Good afternoon, Rahul.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. Sir, just to understand, with regards to the margin part, you did mention that except for camphor, the other product prices have gone up. Typically, in a couple of quarters back, we had reported gross margins of roughly around 50%, which in the last 2 quarters has come down to around 35-40%. So what is the steady state gross margins going ahead? And also with regards to the capex being done, do we see an improvement in our gross margins post the expansion gets completed, considering that we are adding certain value-added products?
Parag, you want to go ahead and take that question?
Yeah. Rahul, thanks for the question. As we always keep saying, that as a company, we look at our performance over a longer period of time and not quarter to quarter. So, and we continue to give a yearly guidance of between 15 to 17% of EBITDA margin, which we feel are more sustainable going forward. And we have continuously reiterated in our past calls as well that the enhanced margins that we saw in few quarters were primarily an aberration, but we would settle down at a more sustainable margin, which is between 15 to 17% of EBITDA margin. So that is something which we continue to give a guidance on. And going forward, your question about capex, definitely, I mean, the capex that would come in would help us make our current product line more efficient in terms of better optimization of our plants and hence give us better margins. And also capacity enhancement in our existing products will give us the ability to buy the raw materials more efficiently, which will help us achieve better margins. In terms of newer products, I think rather than, when you build brand new plants for the newer products after validating them in the pilot as well as our multi-product plants to check the validity of the process and the quality, definitely all these capex, because of these 3 factors, would help us attain margins, but we also have to keep a watch on what is going to be more sustainable.
Sure. And secondly, we have been hearing from many companies in last 3-4 months with regards to logistic issues, both in terms of timely availability of materials and also on the export side, plus the cost of logistics. Have we been facing some similar kind of issues, any kind of shortages or any kind of delays with regards to both exporting our products as well as receiving our raw materials, whereby in some cases, probably our logistic costs could have gone up or will go up further?
So Rahul, if you look at logistics as a subject, we have to divide it into 2 aspects. What's happening internally in India, where I think the whole pressure of managing COVID has been put on fuel costs. If you put it purely, that's going to have an impact on logistics on either side, on my raw materials, on my packaging goods, and on my finished product as well. So that is pertaining to the cost. But when it comes to international logistics, we are still seeing challenging times in terms of availability of containers or probably, the shipping lines being at their efficient like they were in the good old days. But I think, are they having a tremendous material impact on the business? They are having an impact because of the costs, but I think these are things which eventually will settle down and will probably get factored out as they settle down, except the fuel cost, which needs to come down substantially for Indian logistics players to pass on that benefit to us.
Sorry to interrupt. May I request Mr. Rahul Jain to please rejoin the queue
Thanks.
for the following question? Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, the request to all the participants to please limit the question to 2. If you have a follow-up question, you may rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Manish Poddar from Nippon India. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks for doing the call. So, just two questions. First is, let's say, can you probably help me understand, so this margins which you've clocked, gross margins in this quarter, would it be fair to understand that this is at, raw materials at the ongoing market prices? So we have liquidated whatever inventory we had earlier on our books. Is that a fair understanding?
So, currently, if you look at the raw materials that we consumed for making our Q1 production, these raw materials were actually bought at a much higher price point on the camphor terpene chemical side, as well as certain bunch of raw materials where we are seeing a demand supply gap due to various reasons. So we have the high cost inventory, and the high cost inventory has been consumed in this particular quarter.
Okay, and would you have taken any pricing increase, let's say, in this quarter?
So, Manish, as we have reiterated in the past, that in certain products, the longest period of fixed pricing contracts that we have with all our customers is ranging between 4 to 6 months. We don't go beyond that. And a large part of the business is also open business where we do not have any pricing contract. So wherever we have had no restrictions in terms of timing for the contract, we have gone ahead and tried to pass over the price increase to our customers. But wherever we have had the restrictions of the contract, when we revisited those contracts, or we are revisiting those contracts in June and July for the next half, we are factoring those price increases in there.
So is there a number to that? Let's say, so blended price hike, what you would have taken in this quarter?
Sorry.
So I'm just trying to understand, is there a number to that pricing increase, blended number which would have taken during this quarter?
So, Manish, since we have a very wide range of products where at a group level where you have fragrances, flavors on one side which have relatively higher level of price stability, to aroma ingredients where we have these 3 to 6 months contracts with a lot of our bigger customers, to camphor, which is more of an open market. It's very difficult to really give you one price number. But I think as a company, as a group, wherever we are in the position to either pass on the price increases to our customers, as we have done historically, we do that. Wherever the new businesses are acquired on the fragrance and flavor side, the new pricing of the raw materials are factored in. And wherever we have to give price stability to retain the business, so that in the future when we have the opportunity we can correct, we do that.
Okay, just one bookkeeping. So what would be our capacity utilization, let's say, if you can give me probably for June 2021, that will be helpful. Thank you.
Sure. So I think the good news is that all our plants, be it camphor, be it terpene chemicals, be it aroma ingredients, all are running at more or less their max capacity. So, that is the good thing. You might have a aberration in terms of the pricing, but most of the plants are running at our full capacity. And that gives us a lot of confidence that as the situations improve, we will be in a position to really get back to the good old days.
So sorry, just to interpret then, let's say at best utilizations, our blended margins are, let's say, 15-16% EBITDA margins. So incrementally, any margin expansion will be a function of mix change in the business. Is that a fair understanding?
So, Manish, you are probably not going to get that from my mouth. We always say that we stay in this band of 15 to 17%, which are sustainable over a longer period of time, with efforts to increase them as and when we get. And we have demonstrated in the past that when we've got the opportunities, we have gone to those higher levels. But 15 to 17 are more sustainable.
Got it. Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Manish.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Viraj Mehta from Equirus Securities.
Hi, Parag. I would request you not to take beyond 2 questions to give more participants a chance. And if there are more than 2, you can also request them to join the queue again.
Sure. Thanks, Dharma. Yeah. Yeah, Viraj.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, guys. More or less the questions have been answered. Just 2 questions. One, the capex that plan that we had, is everything on track? And due to the rains is there any disruption anywhere in any of our operating plants or in the CapEx or anything in general for our business?
So I think a very pertinent question. I think the CapEx plans are completely on track. We had a minor aberration in terms of our timelines from some of the vendors in Q1 when there was oxygen shortage, because a lot of the oxygen that was needed in the equipment industry was kind of diverted wherever possible to COVID care. So, we had some minor delays which we were able to overcome by working very, very closely with the vendors. But apart from that, I mean, the greenfield project that we plan to for the single product at Baroda seems to be on track in the second week of October. The hydrogenation plans also are on track. I mean, when it comes to Mahad, I think although it has been a big tragedy and, it's been a challenge, but I think for us, in terms of the land, the land had just a little bit of water logging, but there was no flooding in the land. So, it has come out to be a good test for the land. In spite of the rains, there was no flooding in the land where we are going to propose the future expansion. In terms of the environmental clearance applications, they are all in place. So we are keeping our fingers crossed that by October we should have the environmental clearance so that we can start the construction of the plant in Mahad.
Sure. And just one follow-up. One question is, we've always maintained that post this expansion, we should be able to do 2x the revenue that we were doing. And if I look at our gross margins, they have ranged between 35 and 50% on an average over last, I would say, 12 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
And structurally, do you see an improvement in gross margins in the business mix post that expansion, or more or less it should remain the same?
Yeah. So first, a small correction. We always have kept our top line growth as 1.7x of the proposed investment, just to be on a very, very conservative side. I think this investment is probably going to come out with a very wide basket of products. And these products are definitely, some of them are bulk commodities in terms of the generic products, and which will be added to the basket. And many of them are also specialty products. So, our hope and our aspiration will definitely be to maximize the profits with the customers which are there in the available market, and try to increase it beyond our current margin. But I'm sure, like I keep saying, that 15 to 17 is something which is sustainable across our investment plan as a base.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Parag, and best of luck, Dharmil Bhai and Parag. Thank you.
Thanks, Viraj.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Suraj Devra from Palladium Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. I was wondering if you can help me understand the camphor side of the business a little bit better. Particularly, it would be really helpful to understand what the industry capacity installed currently is, and what percentage market share do we have, and subsequently how you think that might change, because I've been hearing that Kanchi has expanded, Mangalam is expanding, Saptagir is expanding, Privi is entering this market. So with all of these expansions in place, do you believe that there is enough room for the market to absorb all this capacity, and how that might impact prices and availability of raw materials? So a few different questions rolled into one. I'm sorry, but it's all related to camphor.
No worries. Can I get your first name, please?
Suraj.
Suraj. Okay. So Suraj, when it comes to camphor, I think it's a very complex question. So we're not very excited by numbers or market share. I think we are the oldest player in camphor business in India, and a lot of and we continue to enjoy a substantial market share in the existing market. I think when we look at, I mean, we don't like to talk a lot about our competitors, but I think when we look at Oriental Aromatics and Camphor, for us, Camphor is just one of a very key product in our whole product mix. So, and we are very bullish on the growth of Camphor, and that is why we are putting up extra capacity in March. I think it's going to be very, very interesting when that capacity comes up. Because it will give us geographical de-risking. It will also give us probably the advantage of having multi-locational benefits, which will help us access to market, and which will also give a kind of a sense of comfort to our international customers. So, if you put all these factors together, our Camphor strategy should be looked at in a slightly different manner than, the peers that we have in the industry. We are very bullish about the growth of Camphor because, as we always say, that people use Camphor in good times, but they use it more in bad times. So we feel that market in India will expand. We are looking at global markets where Oriental has not been there, and the pain relieving segment, as the whole world becomes more health conscious, is bound to grow in the future. So, I mean, all these factors put together seem to give us that confidence that we have the market, and also if you look at the process development capabilities, because we handle 28 different chemistries in Oriental, we will have that ability to do something little different, which will help give us the advantage. So, all these factors put together give us the confidence that in spite of having players entering the Camphor business in India, we should continue to enjoy the leadership position.
Could you just help me understand what is the capacity in India today as a whole, and what is that going to be in 12 months' time after everybody expands?
So I can tell you about my capacities. The other capacities are all hearsay because I do not have any control on that capacity. So our capacity of Camphor is currently at 3,600 metric tons, and we are in the process of expanding that to 4,000 metric tons.
Sorry to interrupt. May I request Mr. Deva to please rejoin the queue? We have participants waiting.
Parag, 4,000 tons in the current plant.
The current plant in Bareilly.
Yeah, and the new plant is still open.
Correct.
Those capacities are yet to be decided.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Hi, Rohit.
Hi. Good afternoon, sir, and thanks for giving me the opportunity. Sir, the first question is if Dharmil sir can just elaborate a little bit on the industry dynamics, how it has transpired over the last few months, and have we come back in terms of the pre-COVID levels in domestic market and in exports market? That would be helpful. Thank you.
I'll let Parag answer that question. Parag, please go ahead.
Sure. So, I probably would divide that question into two parts. What we are doing on the fragrance and flavor side, because most of the time we end up talking a lot about the ingredients division, and then, that gets kind of camouflaged. On the fragrance and flavor front, Q1 was a little slow. I think because of the lockdowns, because of restrictions in terms of various states having different kind of restrictions at this time. The offtake was relatively lower in Q1, and also because of the additional impact of being an off-season. Historically, Q1 is where you don't have the festival, and then the momentum build-ups in June and July. And so as the country is slowly opening, in some cases very drastically, in Maharashtra a little slowly, but we appreciate that. We are seeing demand coming back strongly. There's no question in terms, but we need to see. I mean, we are watching over what's happening on a day-to-day basis in terms of requirements, in terms of the quality of the customers. Is there a deterioration in terms of their ability to pay, etc., etc. So that's on the fragrance and flavor side. When it comes to ingredients, I think we see a very, very strong demand globally, especially with the new product launches that we did at the beginning of the year. The acceptability of those new specialty products has been phenomenal. And, that encourages us to really look at bigger volumes for those products going in the future. When it comes to camphor and terpene chemicals, again, as we are going in the season and the country is opening up, we see a healthy demand for camphor as well as the other terpene chemicals in India. We'll have to just see the impact of the rains that might have on the immediate demand, because if all said and done, the Mahad region or the Konkan region or Sangli, Satara region are key pockets of consumption in Maharashtra. So, if there is a delay in terms of the offtake there, we need to wait and watch.
Sure, that is helpful, sir. So the second, question is in terms of expansions. So given that we have faced the COVID-related challenges, would the expansions be delayed by probably 3 months or so, or will it have some more delay attached to it?
Sure, I can probably tell you the situation as it stands today. I think all the fillers that we have from my projects team, my vendors, whom we have placed the orders for the CapEx, I think all of them, barring some minor delays, are good to go. So we don't feel any substantial delays. Like you said, probably a month or 2 max, but, we are even trying to cut that short by me personally getting involved in to ensure that we try to stick to the timeline. So yeah, as things stand today, we are okay in terms of the timeline, barring a little bit of delay here and there. Having said that, the last 2 years have taught us that, the only thing that is constant in this world is change. So we need to kind of evaluate the changing situation. If it becomes better, good. If there is a challenge, then we might have to revisit the time.
Fair. Understood, sir. Thanks a lot and best of luck.
Thanks, Rohit.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhwanil Desai from Turtle Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, team. Good afternoon. So 2 questions. Hi. 2 questions. So the first one is with respect to the commercialization of new products and product launches. So if you can give some sense as to how many products we commercialized in FY21 and what is the plan for FY22, and if you can also give some color as to out of those, how many were ingredients, how many were F&F blends, and also can you talk a bit more about the size of the product in terms of the addressable market? Are they 20-30 crore product or 80-100 crore kind of a product? I mean, what is the kind of market potential we see when we launch? And I understand you have a basket, so there will be an entire range, but still some sense on that would be helpful.
Parag, the first part of the question I think has been answered in the past. So if you don't recall those exact numbers, then you can maybe just give a ballpark of the number of products. And on the second part, you can take it.
Sure. Thanks, Dharmil. So, Dhwanil, I think, like Dharmil rightly suggested, that in our earlier calls, and if you do not have that information, probably Anuj can help you out in getting that information. Sure. We have defined our R&D pipeline or our R&D to commercialization strategy for the next 1 or 2 years. And I can only say that I think we are absolutely green in terms of our ability to implement all those projects. And so that information probably Anuj can share with you, and you can reach out to him, who's our investor relationships guys. Pertaining to the second question, it is like I said that it's going to be a very interesting combination of specialty chemicals which are mid volume and high value, and some which are high volume and less value. It will be really difficult for us for me to really give you a product-wise differentiation. What I can always say that when we invest in a particular plant and we give you the number, the impact of that particular investment multiplied by 1.7x is going to be the eventual impact to the top line when that product gets fully commercialized. I hope I have kind of answered, because it's very difficult when you are making a multi-product hydrogenation plant. You start with a particular starting point. As you evolve, you kind of tweak a little bit because you have few new products that have come in. But what we can safely say that if we have invested X amount, you are going to get 1.7x when that particular plants get fully commercialized and exploited for sales to customers.
Okay, got it. And second question is on the F&F blend side. So largely, I understand it's a domestic driven market, and our growth in the past also we will say it will mirror mostly Indian FMCG growth. But we still have a lot of room to gain market share. So what are we doing to increase our market share? If you can, talk about that.
Sure. So when it comes to fragrances and flavors, you do not have a definite number to how many products you're going to launch, because it's a library. And I think the process of creation with Dharmil and his full creative team is an ongoing process where they are creating new ideas every day. Having said that, I completely agree with you that sky is the limit. And although we are on the fragrance and flavor sides, a substantial amount of our business is from domestic sales. But I think we are definitely looking at newer geographies. We are, putting resources not only on the creation side, but also on market exploitation, consumer interaction. And we are just waiting for all these lockdowns to open up and free movement of people to start. And we will be ready to really geographically expand our business beyond India, which we already are doing. We are pretty strong in Indonesia, a lot of Southeast Asian countries, and we are exploring multiple markets in Africa, in Middle East. And we will, in the near future, should see businesses coming from these new emerging markets.
Okay, great. All the best to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhanil.
Thank you. Participants who wishes to ask a question, please press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Rohit Ohri from Progressive Shares. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. 2 questions. These are related to the annual report. The annual report speaks quite a lot about green chemistries and green engineering. So can you take us through how will this benefit us?
So, if you look at green chemistry and green engineering, I think, as a word, we have moved beyond just kind of having them as part of literature to actual things happening on the ground. We have now boiler systems which work on rice husk, for instance, instead of coal. So these are engineering tools which are more sustainable and which are less harming to the environment. We have moved from a scenario 20 years back where cutting trees was considered to be very, very bad, to a situation where alpha-pinene, which is obtained from a pine tree, is considered as a more sustainable raw material than probably a raw material which has been taken out from a petro stream, because a petro stream is considered as a non-renewable source, whereas a pine tree, when replanted in markets like Brazil or New Zealand, are considered as more renewable than something which is coming from a petro source. So, as we move on, as we evolve as a species, I think green chemistry and green engineering are going to be key elements. There's going to be a fine balance between the cost and the benefit, which over the years, if when that gets tilted on the benefit side, people will move on. So as a company, if you are not keeping an eye on what's happening there, and when you are doing a capex or when you are doing an opex or when you are finalizing a process, if you don't keep these things in mind, you might find yourselves completely irrelevant going in the future. So, having zero liquid discharge schemes for all the plants, or like I said, having these new boiler systems. I think it's the need of the hour, Rohit. You can't just stay with that. And they will give you benefits in terms of better customer acceptability, customers ready to in fact pay you a premium if you are making something using green chemistry or green engineering, to a phase where it becomes a way of life, and then it kind of becomes a new norm.
So currently, it appears to be as an ESG, a part of the ESG initiative going forward, where you can get benefits in terms of premiumization of the products. Is it fair to assume that?
So can you tell me what is ESG? I'm not very sure about that.
So you're looking at the environment aspect, then the social aspects, and the governance aspect. So when you speak about green chemistry, you're looking at the environment aspect of ESG. Is it fair to assume in that fashion?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And a lot of the drivers for this for this movement towards green chemistry is driven by our customers.
Okay. So second question, it's quite a small query, but in terms of the contingent liability, we see that there's around 6 crores, which is with some disputed income tax matters, and some 4.5 crores, which is related to disputed sales tax matters. So what do you think, that these are probable, possible, or remote contingencies?
Girish, you want to answer
we
this
are very much sure to win the cases because these demands are not tenable as per the law.
Okay.
So yes, we are in the appeals and we will win the case. We are very much confident.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rajpreet, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Congratulations for a strong set of numbers. I would just like to know more about the company's capex plans and the numbers on that, please. The plant capacities.
So Rishabh, if I may, can I request you? I can share with you in a very broad way, but in terms of the numbers, if you can reach out to my investor relations team led by Anuj, because in our earlier calls we have already spoken about how much we are going to spend and what are the timelines. But broadly, we are currently looking at doing one greenfield expansion for a single product in Baroda, which will be commissioned in October. And we are also going to commission a greenfield multipurpose hydrogenation facility, which will come in Baroda. And then we have the Mahad expansion, where we are looking at building a camphor plant, and plus a few other plants for products which will be coming out of our R&D in the near future. And in our Bareilly side, we are doing 2 projects of process re-engineering as part of our CPR program, where we are increasing the capacity of some of our terpene chemicals by tweaking our current infrastructure. And we are going to put some extra boiler systems along with cogeneration, which will help us reduce cost and which will be more environmentally friendly. So, broadly speaking, these are the capex plans that we have. Micro details, I would request you to reach out to Anuj, and he'll probably be giving you all the details.
Sir, may I just know which quarter con call should be referred to?
Anuj, can you help out? I think it was the last call or the call before.
I think it's in almost, Parag, I think it's in almost every quarter we've addressed it. So
correct.
Its pieces are across every quarter.
Okay, sure, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Rishabh.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manish Poddar from Nippon India. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the follow-up. So just one question. I believe one of your suppliers is forward integrating to manufacture camphor. So do you think this will probably impact any on the front, let's say on the supply front?
So the most critical cost imparting raw material for camphor is alpha-pinene, and you do not have a single manufacturer of alpha-pinene in India. And to the best of my knowledge, there's a completely different mindset which is needed for manufacturing alpha-pinene vis-a-vis a camphor, because alpha-pinene is a natural derived product, and camphor is a pretty complicated, sophisticated, multi-step chemical reaction process. So yeah, I mean, we hear a lot of these things. Like I said, that the more the players are there in the market, as long as we are sure about our quality and our strategy going forward, it would be more interesting. So we have already de-risked our alpha-pinene buying capabilities way back in 2017, and we continuously try to improve there. So we are not relying on one country or one source, and that helps us to kind of keep our raw material purchase prices in control. And yeah, so that probably is a benefit that we have, and yeah, that's what we would like to say on this.
Got it. And just one small query. So let's say when I look at your balance sheet, let's say Q4 ending, the higher inventory which we had on the books was primarily for raw materials. That was not for finished goods. Is that a fair understanding?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The raw material inventory has increased, some because of the quantity as well as the rate impact was also there. So the raw material prices was going up in the March quarter.
Got it. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Alisha Mavla from Envision Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon, and thank you for taking my question.
Hi, Alisha.
I just wanted some clarifications. At the start of the call, you mentioned that the sales volume for the quarter were flat, and to an earlier participant, you mentioned that our capacity currently is at peak utilization, and a large part of our capex, which is the multi-purpose hydrogenation plant, will come towards the end of the year. So the question is that in that case, since we don't have any peak capacity coming at least for till the end of the year, the current run rate, our revenue run rate of about 220 crores, is that the kind that we should be looking to maintain till the end of the year till new capacity comes in? Or is there scope for this revenue to go up even during the year because of better realizations, or is there scope for any other kind of growth coming in?
So I think, Alisha, a good question. First is we also have one greenfield project which will be current in October, and assuming that 2 months of validation, it should start contributing to the top line in Q4 of this year. Point number one. Point number two, we also are having a lot of CPR projects which are going in the Bareilly side, which would give us incremental increases in some of our terpene chemicals as well as camphor capacities. So once they come online, we will probably be having tweaking in the top line because of that. And like I said, that we've just finished 6 months back a brownfield project where we increased our capacity for in the multi-product plant that we had commissioned in 2018 for a few products. And those products, we have still not been in a position to kind of get them to their full potential in terms of the ability to sell. So all these factors put together should help us give you much better numbers. Having said that, we always try to believe, and we feel that we should be very conservative. So we stick to these numbers and we see as we go on. But we have lot of additional tweaking in terms of capacities which are going to come up between now and the hydrogenation plant comes.
Got it, sir. And just if you could mention what is going to be the capex for your capex plan for the year. While I know what projects are going in, what is the amount you're looking to spend during the year? If you could just quantify that for us.
Like I said, this has been mentioned in our earlier call, But just to give you a rough ballpark number for this year, we are looking at this single product standalone plant investment of around
Parag?
Between 120 to 150 crores, depending on, because we're still in the process of finalizing capacities for a few products for the hydrogenation.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, to ask a question, please press star and 1. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the follow-up. Just one clarification on the outlook. So last year we had EBITDA margins which were supported by extragenous factors, but in the initial remarks you mentioned that we still continue to maintain 15 to 17% guidance. So this year, effectively, our growth in EBITDA or operating profit and bottom line will be driven by top line growth, and there would be relatively lower support from the extragenous factors such as price increase or reduction in RM cost. Is that the right understanding?
Right, Rohit.
Correct.
Because yes, Parag, sorry.
No problem. I think it's a fair understanding that what happened in the last year, where we had some inventories of low cost raw materials, all those factors would not be there now.
Right. That's it from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bob from Falcon. Please go ahead.
Hello. I understand you manufacture a lot of aroma chemicals, more than 100. But are there any where you have global leadership and which contribute a large amount of your revenues?
Can I get your first name again, please? I missed it.
Bobby.
Bobby. Okay. And Bobby, I lost you in the middle of the question. Can you repeat the question so that I can probably understand it and then answer?
So are there any aroma chemicals where you have, which contribute a disproportionate amount to your revenues, where you have global leadership?
So we definitely, since we operate in the space of generic specialty aroma chemicals, the model is where we would like to have a nice combination where, say, some products like some musks that we manufacture or some sandal smelling chemicals that we manufacture, we have a sizable amount of the global market share. To a strategy where we make certain specialty and we kind of cater to a substantial amount of the available market for them. So we do not have a specific uniform strategy around all our products, but it depends on product to product. And when we build capacities for newer launches, for example, this new product, single product expansion that we are doing in Baroda, the product that we are going to make there, we would probably be one of the largest producers of that particular product globally.
Right. Who do you consider your major competitors domestically for aroma chemicals?
Bobby, I'm unable to hear. Yeah.
We cannot hear you, sir. Your voice is breaking. Can you please check?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, who do you consider to be your major competitors in aroma chemicals domestically?
Well, I think, we, like I always say that, we are not very keen to kind of keep exploring what our competitors are doing. We just have our strategy and we motor on and we just keep working on our strategy. But I think with the kind of basket of products that we offer, right from bulk commodity terpene chemicals to extremely high value specialty chemicals, I think the basket makes it very, very exciting for us. And I'm sure, I mean, the peers in the business probably would not have the kind of basket that we have.
And just to add to that, we have very few overlapping products with the competition of aroma chemicals that there is in India today. And I think each company has its own approach to what positions they would like to take in these materials. And considering the fact that we offer a vast range of products, as Parag has mentioned, I would be very comfortable to say that in the majority of products that we build or get to capacity, we would at least have 33% or more of market share. So our goal is not to become 100% of a market. We would like to stay around with the competition.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, please press star and 1. As there are no further questions from the participants, I now hand the conference over to Mr. Shyamul Bodani from Oriental Aromatics Limited for closing comments.
Thank you all for participating in this earnings con call. I hope we have been able to answer your questions satisfactorily. If you have any further questions or would like to know more about the company, we would be happy to assist. We are very thankful to our investors who stood by us and have the confidence in the company's growth plan and focus. And with this, I wish everyone a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Oriental Aromatics Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.